Hey, bud, over here. Yeah, over here. Yeah, hi. Huh. Why don't you paint me like one of them girls from France? Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Jason from the Dark Hero and welcome to part 2 of the Halloween DIY. So here I applied some cotton to the bottom of the jaw with some hot glue just to kind of give it a little bit of meat, and I'm giving some color to that meat, mixing some red with some browns, using my fingers to kind of spread it around. And once it dried, it was a little harder texture. Now here I was doing something here. I wasn't too crazy. The turnout was actually making teeth with the hot glue gun. So basically it was just sculpting. I thought it was actually going to come up with a really cool idea, but eventually I changed it. Now, as well, I'm going to be doing the top part of where you have your palate. That's on the top part of your mouth. I'm going to be adding some the little ridges that you have. I'm going to be using the hot glue gun. There's little tiny details. I don't think people will be too picky about looking, because what I'm making is going to be kind of used for distance, and you'll see sometime soon. Now I attach the jaw to the skull using the hot glue gun, with making the mouth open just to make sure it's has an expression instead of just a closed mouth. Now I'm playing around with some eyes just to kind of give some ideas how deep the eye sockets should be. Now with the skull itself, it's some sort of vinyl and it has a texture to it that I didn't really like, so I was worried that eventually when I start painting and as well applying the liquid latex that it would not actually stick. So I added some of this painter's tape that I bought at a local dollar type store, and I'm using this to cover up the skull. I probably could have used some sort of primer, but I didn't have any primer, and like I said, I'm trying to use as much as I can in this build that I have already. I don't want to go out and start buying stuff, because the only thing I actually bought for this build was the skull and maybe a paintbrush. Yeah, that was about it. Just two things that I just needed to buy. I already had the tape already, so like I said, I'm just using what I already have. So basically applying all the tape just to make sure it's all covered. And next what I'm going to be doing here is of course I wanted to start adding the liquid latex. Now this is the liquid latex here that I have in the bottle that I bought at a local art store. This stuff stinks because it has ammonia in it as well. And it smells like an unclean cat litter box, trust me. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding the liquid latex and cotton for the gums, and just applying it that way. Now this form of application for adding cotton and latex has been done for quite some time in the Hollywood industry. Jack Pierce, the one that did the makeup for the Boris Karloff Frankenstein, well, he used cotton and a different other type of stuff I never heard of before, but it's the same type of application as you see Boris Karloff's Frankenstein. He has more of a square head, so it's just basically a buildup of cotton and the latex type of material to build up the bigger head. So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding the liquid latex to the gum line to be used as flesh. and just to cover up the painter's tape. Now next I'm mixing up some white acrylic paint with some acrylic ink. So the black was the acrylic ink and the white of course is the paint. So what I'm doing here is I'm covering up the color of the tape. Now I kind of rigged up something here on one of my little racks that I have here just to hold the skull with the original stick that comes with it, so that way I can paint it and grab it and then dry it with the hair dryer. I wanted to cover up as much as the green as I can because I didn't want the green to pop out with the color that I was going to decide later on to cover or to color the actual skull. So I want to thank all to my subscribers and people that just come by to watch the video, and also those who liked and those who have commented. And if you haven't made any comment, please go ahead, don't be shy. I like to hear what you guys have to say about the videos, if you have any opinions about it, and also if you have any ideas for any upcoming episodes or videos that I'll be working on, or just something that you want to suggest, and I might do it. Never know. So right now I'm applying the liquid latex to the rest of the skull using cotton and as well toilet paper. Yep, that's right, using TP on the skull. Now with the toilet paper, I find that it actually gives it a nice texture, a little bit of wrinkles here and there, or you might want to use it as veins, whatever your approach is. Now if you don't have liquid latex, as I mentioned before, liquid latex is a little expensive. This one is not too bad. It was like 24 bucks. You can also use Elmer's glue. I don't know if I was allowed to say that, but anyways, I said it. Basically a PVC glue that you can use. The only difference with that is that when you do use it, it feels like liquid latex, but when it dries, it gets a little hard. But that's fine though. It still does the same effect when you mix the glue with the cotton, or as well with the toilet paper, or some people use like fine tissue that you use for wrapping. Now what I did here is I gave him a little bit of nostrils here to kind of give it a more creepy looking effect to it. And here I'm adding a little bit of eyelids, because I will be using some eyes. As you can see here, I'm just testing it out, see what it would look like, and doing the bottom part of the jaw. Now you may notice that I'm mixing up some paint here. What I'm doing is I'm going to be coloring on the inside of the mouth. Now you'll notice that there's little blotches of red. Well, I kind of wanted to experiment off camera to see which of the reds that I have, because I was going to go with the red color. That's what I wanted to do for the whole skull. And here I'm doing the eye sockets again to make sure that they have a good coverage. Make sure that the eyes fit quite well into the eyes, or into the eye sockets. Now you notice it's all of a sudden it's red. Well, the video got lost. The joys of recording videos. You make one little tiny boo-boo and you lose a lot of stuff. But anyways, it would have been boring anyways, just see me applying the red. Now as you see here, I'm starting to do the ears. Now with the ears, I'm using wire and the painter's tape again to give it the shape, and a little bit something to the liquid latex to stick on. So I did one layer, and now I'm using the toilet paper once again to kind of give a really good coverage to make sure that once again we have a little bit of meat for extra layers for the ears. Now here I'm trying a method called Nerney's, where you use a glass panel or a glass, and then you basically spread liquid latex, dry it with a hair dryer, and then you use your finger to make little holes, so it kind of looks like a little fleshy type thing. So I did something different. I did it on the actual skull, where I applied the liquid latex and then pulled it with my finger. So anyways, I did that, so it kind of gives it like the skin's pulling, and here I added some washes to it. Now washes basically just a thin down paint, or it could be ink as well too, where you don't have your full thickness of a paint. Just adding some more stuff in here, some more washes, some little blotches here and there. I don't want it to be perfectly red, because kind of gives a little bit more interest to it. It kind of gives it like more realism to it when you add little blotches of stuff instead of just being one uniform color. Because if you wanted to add highlights to it, like it has the natural highlights coming from the light source, because as you can see, liquid latex is very shiny. Eventually I will be changing that, because I wasn't really satisfied with it being too shiny, because it just looked a little bit off-putting. I find looked kind of unrealistic. Now got some coffee here because I'm doing something. I'm getting rid of all of the teeth that came with the skull and then the build-up I did, because I wasn't too crazy about how it looked. So I'm using snippers here and using a lighter to melt the hot glue gun. So the teeth are out. Now I'm adding some, and here I'm adding some more tissue paper to the ears to give it more meat to it. And with the ears, what I also did as well too is that the way that your ears are shaped, where you have the inner parts where you have like the little ridges that basically they have the curves, and then your little thing that covers your ear hole. I don't know what it's called, that little flap of skin. Well, I used cotton and liquid latex. So here I'm making teeth out of a special type of polymer clay. This polymer clay I bought at a local big art store, and it's basically the way it works is that this clay, that when you bake it, it becomes a little bit semi-translucent like teeth are, because teeth are not fully solid. Now they say to bake it in the oven, but if you bake the stuff in the oven, it actually gives off fumes and it's not good for your food. So I just used a heat gun just to heat it. Now here I am actually adding some washes to the teeth to kind of give, like I said, some more interest to it. Not to have just plain white teeth, because it just kind of stood out too much with the white teeth. Now, if you don't have that kind of clay, you can probably use other stuff. You can get air dry clay. Some people, what they use fingernails, like fake fingernails, acrylic nails, and they use those as teeth as well too. You can use anything, whatever works. Now here I'm using some more liquid latex to add some gums to the more gums, because when I removed the teeth I actually took the gums that I made earlier, so I'm adding gums back to the new teeth that I made. And what I did was I actually dried it in my closet with a fan. And here what I'm doing is I'm adding some more detail to the face here with just using paintbrush, and also I'm painting with the red, and I did some little speckles there. Painting with the red to cover up the shininess. Basically, I kind of use like a dry brush method with just plain red acrylic paint to kind of take down some of the brightness of the actual sculpt, because I find it was just a little too bright. And in the last step, I'm adding some hair that I used with yarn that I dyed with some red paint, and attached it by gluing it with liquid latex and drying it with a hairdryer. So there you have it, folks. This is the head that I did out of a plastic skull. Now, as you did notice in the last of the video, there was more hair than the end, so I did that kind of off camera. So this is basically what I had lying around the house. The only thing that I actually really technically bought was the skull, and that's about it. So I don't really think this one's actually really done. No. I think there needs to be a little bit more. But I'm going to take a little break for a little while. I got some other Halloween projects that I want to work on, to do some videos to show, some little tips and tricks and other things you can make. So until next time, have a good one, and we'll see you in the next video. And peace out.